Now, without much further ado, I'd like to invite our next speaker to the stage. Hi, Adem.
Hi, Martin. Good evening.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. Doing our best. Finishing 2020 on a good note.
Right, that's the best we can do at this point. And I mean, wow. To be honest, everything that any of us achieved this year is a huge achievement, because I think the cards have definitely been stacked against us, no?
Yes, definitely. And it doesn't look like it's getting better, but let's just keep fingers crossed. And 2021, sorry, is near.
I have the bad feeling that we are having to deal with this for at least like a little while. I don't think this is going to go back to normal very, very soon, but I hope that we are definitely getting back on track in 2021 at some point. So keeping fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's see.
Talking about keeping fingers crossed, you were talking about something that I don't know very much about, but I'm really, really excited to learn more about it. And I think it's basically, it exists to not have you keep your fingers crossed, because we are talking about blockchains, aren't we?
Yes, we will. Part of it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite exciting. And I have seen a few React Native talks, and every single time I've seen one, it has been interesting and exciting. So I'm really, really looking forward to see how to port a blockchain library to React Native on mobile. Would you like to take it away?
Sure, thank you very much, Martin.
Awesome. So big round of applause from our audience, from our virtual audience. So I'll do my best to like, woo, cheer you, and I'll be back. Have fun.
Awesome, thanks. So thank you very much, Martin, and thanks for having me today. So I'm originally from Switzerland, not too far from Zurich, but never had the chance to be there in person before the Corona situation. So today I'll be talking about React Native and how to bring a blockchain library to React Native. So these are two different worlds in a way. React Native for mobile platforms, and on the other side we have blockchain libraries with native codes, and we just want to combine these two worlds and get the best out of them. So let's talk about React Native. I guess most of you are already familiar with React.js, the web framework. So React Native is also a JavaScript framework, but made based on React, but for the mobile platforms. So the idea is to use JavaScript and to implement mobile apps for iOS and Android. And the great thing about React Native is the ability to be able to share this code, the JavaScript code, between iOS and Android. So I'm personally coming from the native side. So I was building mobile apps with Objective-C for iOS and Java for Android. So you have to do them separately, like completely separately, different code base, where here with React Native, you can reuse. Sometimes you can have your full app made in JS, whereas sometimes you also need some native codes as well. It's great because it also allows easy integration of native code and library, what we will see in the next slides. It has a huge community, so it was made by Facebook, and now the community of maintainers is growing every day. Tons of NPM packages available, so this is really helpful when working on the projects, on React Native projects. And it really have this native feeling. So there are other hybrid, what we call hybrid alternatives that exist. But I'm really fan of React Native because it provides this native feeling, and also for the ability of easily bringing all this native code to your mobile applications, while still building most of your app in JavaScript and already making it ready for iOS and Android. So a quick slide about blockchain and what is the link between blockchain and React Native here is that blockchain is the distributed ledger technology that you might already probably have heard about. It's a technology that is secure, transparent, and trustless, where a ledger is shared between all the machines in the network, and there is no way to modify, edit. So this ledger is immutable, it's shared, so everybody has the same version. It allows everybody to keep track of what's been happening there. And a very good example of where the blockchain technology is used at its best is cryptocurrencies. So you probably all heard about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin as at its core is using the blockchain technology. So every transactions are written in a ledger that is shared among all the computers in the network. This is an immutable ledger. You cannot modify it, you cannot edit it, you cannot go back. It's really a secure way to make transactions. And because it needs to be secure, it needs to be efficient, most of the blockchain libraries are written using low-level programming languages, so C, C++, and now also written a lot with Go as a language. So here, when ones want to bring a blockchain library to your React Native app, if you're building a mobile app for the blockchain or for cryptocurrency project, and you want to use this native library, you need a way to be able to easily port this blockchain library to your mobile platform. And it's really interesting because there are more and more blockchain and crypto projects using React Native in their mobile app. So here are a few examples. Relay is a company I co-founded and we launched a few months ago to easily buy and sell Bitcoin, Swiss-made and available in Europe. The Quantum Resistant Ledger and the Elastos are blockchain projects. Quantum Resistant Ledger is bringing the quantum security to the blockchain technology, and the Elastos is a blockchain project building the new smart web, where in this smart web, users will really finally be able to own their data, to share their data, and even be able to monetize their data and also any digital asset. And this blockchain also has a unique way of communicating within the network using their own P2P network, which makes it more secure. And in the next slides, I will take the example of the Elastos library. So the Elastos project has a wallet library, which allows you to create a wallet for your cryptocurrency. And then you can send and receive your cryptocurrency in this wallet. React Native provides native modules. These are components that allows communication between JavaScript and native platform API. So initially, these were made so that you can use native APIs from iOS or Android. For example, here, the example that you can see here is from the React Native website on the NativeModules page, and they show an example of how to use the calendar in your iOS app. So from your React Native, you will be able to access the calendar API, create an event, save an event, access, and do everything that you could do with Objective-C or Swift. But here, you will be able to access these functions from JavaScript. And this can be also for any other API from the Android platform. But native modules are here so that you can communicate between JavaScript and Objective-C, or with JavaScript and Java. So it doesn't go beyond. But today we want to take this one step further, meaning that we are going to talk about a native library written in C++, and we will take the example of a function from this library, and we will call this function from our JavaScript code directly in React Native in a two-ways communication, back and forth. So we'll take this example of the wallet from the Elastos library that has functions like signing, verifying, and generating mnemonic. I will tell you what a mnemonic is a bit later. And so why would you like to do this? You can think that you already have everything, every library possible in NPM, or that the project will at some point write the JavaScript, develop the JavaScript implementation of this library, but it's not always the case. So these native libraries are more efficient. As mentioned earlier, they're written with low-level programming languages. they are maintained by the core team. So it means that you're always up to date. You have always the best version of this library. And it's there, so why not just use it? You don't have to rewrite everything in JavaScript just so that you can use it in your project. You can just use it already as is. And if we look a bit closer on how this looks like, we have our JavaScript code in our React Native circle there, and we have an external native SDK here, or our library, the wallet library written in C or C++. And in between, we have this code that is a bridge between these two parts that we want to bring together. And here, this part is either Objective-C or Java, depending if you're working for iOS or Android. So what is the function that we will port today is called generate mnemonic. A mnemonic is a list of 12 to 24 words, and it has been developed so that you can easily, ideally, it's still not super easy to remember all these words, but the idea was that you could easily remember the access to your crypto wallet. With these words, you are able to generate a list of private and public key pairs, which are actually opening the doors to your wallet. So think of this as the main password for your crypto wallet. And if you lose your mnemonic, you lose access to your wallet. So this is super, super important. So in this wallet library from the Elastos project, we have this function that is called generate mnemonic. It takes two parameters, language and words. So if the language is English, you don't need the words. Let's take the example of English. By calling this function, you will get back a list of 12 words. So this will generate these 12 words, and with these 12 words, you will have access to your crypto wallet. So meaning you will have all the key pairs, public, private keys that you can send and receive cryptocurrency to your wallet. And now we have this library written in C++ with this generate mnemonic function, and we want to access it from our React Native mobile app. So I will show you the example for iOS and also the example for Android. So let's start with iOS, because iOS is actually the easiest in this specific case. On iOS, the main programming language has been Objective-C for quite some time, and now slowly switching to Swift. But if we will be talking about Objective-C because it's much simpler, and as I mentioned, our core library was written in C++. And on iOS, you can have a mixed language that is called Objective-C++. So meaning that you have your Objective-C code, and you can include C++ calls directly in your Objective-C code. The only thing that is required is to change the extension of the file. Instead of .m, you change it to .mm. And you can also change the identity directly. This is a screenshot from Xcode, where you can directly change the identity of your file to Objective-C++. And of course, you also have always the header file that goes together. Once you have this, you only need to start your Objective-C++ file with a specific @implementation call with a name. So here we have rn Elastos main chain for React Native Elastos main chain. And we have the export module here that is at the top of our Objective-C++ file, and then we can start writing our functions. So concretely, this is like a schematic representation about how this works. So we have our mobile app, and whenever the user is tapping the generate mnemonic button, this is going to call a list of actions and returns back the 12 words that we were asking for. So on top, we have our JavaScript code where we import the native module. So this is where the native module part is happening. It's on the first part, on the top part. As in the previous slide, I showed you how we called our native module. And here we are calling the native module with the generate mnemonic function. This code is calling our Objective-C++ file, where we have actually also created a new function called generate mnemonic that returns a callback to JavaScript. And this Objective-C++ file, the function here is actually directly calling the C++ function, which is the original function, the main function that was written in the library itself. So you can see here it returns a string. The function itself is also called generate mnemonic, and it takes these two parameters, language, and a list of words if the language is not English. And in the end, we have the whole path here from JavaScript to Objective-C++ via NativeModules, and then to C++ directly in, thanks to the Objective-C++ implementation in Xcode that then goes back to JavaScript. And this is a two-way communication. A bit more tricky on Android, and tricky because you have this additional piece of the puzzle that is called the GNI, which is the Java native interface. So here, native modules in React Native are taking part of the JavaScript Java communication, but not the rest. And then between Java and C++, because our library is in C++, we have the GNI, which requires an additional implementation. So again, if we look at how this work together, we all start again with JavaScript, where we import our blockchain library that calls Java thanks to native modules. So in Java, we have our generate mnemonic function. And then between the C++, so the function in the call in the library, the generate mnemonic call in the library, and Java, we have the native interface that is doing the bridge there. So this is an additional call that we have to implement, because that's the only way to communicate between Java and C++, which makes it a bit more difficult than iOS, where we can directly use C++ code in our Objective-C files. But this is how the whole implementation would work on Android. And in the end, once you made these two parts, develop these two parts, in your React Native app, you will be able just to import as long as you use the same name for your native modules. You can just have one single call to import my native module blockchain library and then generate mnemonic. You don't even have to distinguish between iOS or Android. No condition required there. Just by calling this generate mnemonic function from this native module, you will be able to have access to the native library. So I hope this was clear, and just to give you an overview of how one uses native code and native libraries in React Native, which I am really fan of, and which really still keeps me working with React Native. And thank you very much for your time. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the talk. I did not expect to see some JNI in my life, especially not, like, as in, again, in my life, and especially not in the Web Zurich meetup. That was interesting. That is, how did you, like, is this all well documented, or did you have to like push through a lot of pain? Because I know that when I was working with hybrid mobile applications in 2014, that was pure pain.
Yeah, 14 was definitely really bad. In a way that it was just slowly starting, and but now React Native is really robust and stable. Native modules work really fine, but then when you have to go a bit further, again in iOS is much easier thanks to Objective-C++. But you can just Google GNI and look at the results you'll find there. It's not much, and then it's really scary. That's when it gets really complicated. I have to admit, I'm a bit. So I try to limit the calls there, like use it just really for important functions, and trying to do the rest. So everything that is UI UX related is always on React Native. Just very specific functions on the native side. But the GNI is really painful to work with. But hopefully this could get solved in the near future. The React Native team is working on a new implementation that they call Turbo Modules. and hopefully this will bring a bit more easier implementation. So I haven't been there yet, so I'm still using the old way, the legacy way, but turbo modules look really interesting, and that might also help a lot bringing native libraries to React Native. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I see. There's like still a lot of innovation happening, and it's still not a solved problem, so to say.
No.
Yeah.
No,
That's
not yet.
exciting. That's exciting. I mean, you are basically on the forefront of innovation there, so that's really, really cool. Thank you so much for your talk.
Thank you very much, Martin.
This has been fabulous, and I hope to see you also in the after party chat as well. And thanks a lot. This has been great. And again, I did not expect to have my brain when you said like, oh, we're gonna look at some C++. I'm like, ooh, again, really? I had to do that earlier this week. I don't want to. But it was really nice and enjoyable. Thank you so much. This was really, really cool.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. See you later.